Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 2 In-Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be comparing the Bouncing Betty and Claymore. These are the two auto-detonating lethal grenades, or in the lethal class of this game, they're not technically grenades, and the C4 is similar because it's stationary, but these are the ones that you throw down to protect your backside if you're sniping, if you're camping. If you really need to choke up an area, these two weapons are what you're going to be using. The gameplay that you're seeing is very unusual and kind of meta in a way. It's unusual in that it's gameplay that I didn't get. You're watching gameplay from JHUB'S perspective. He plays with me in a lot of in-depth episodes. You probably see him in the kill cam. You probably hear me mention him in videos. He's in the channel box. He helps me do a lot of stuff for in-depth. Today he helped me get the gameplay because I've been kind of sick, and I've been desperately producing videos ahead of time before going to PAX so that you all have something to watch while I'm kind of sort of on vacation. And while I was getting clips for the pistol episode and the accuracy episode, he was doing Bouncing Betty and Claymore, so I'm going to see myself on his screen from his perspective. And if you'd like to check out JHUB'S channel, I'll have a link right up there at the top. He helps me with a lot of in-depth stuff, and he makes good content on his own, usually high-scoring stuff, some Minecraft. I'd appreciate it if you check him out. If not, don't worry about it. You can click or go down there in the description. Now let's skip into what the Bouncing Betties actually do. The Bouncing Betty damage varies from 200 to 75. That's 200 damage in the very center of the blast radius, but it will drop all the way down to 75 damage at the edge of the blast radius. What this means is if the Betty hits you at all, if you take a single nick of damage, it's going to do 75 damage to you. There's no way to do less without Flak Jacket, and in hardcore that means that this is always going to kill. Even at the very edge of the radius, it's still going to be doing 75 damage, which is almost triple the amount of health you have in hardcore anyway, and the range on the Betty blast radius is 256 inches. 256 inches is about 21 feet or about 6.5 meters, just kind of depending on what measurement system you're going to use. And we're assuming that this is a straight linear drop-off, which means that for the better part of that range, it's going to be a one-shot kill. Not a one-shot kill, a one-detonate kill. You're not going to survive it. The Claymore is very similar, but it deals a little bit less damage. It deals 200 damage in the middle, but it deals 50 damage at the very edge of its blast radius. Interestingly enough, the radius from the center of the explosion, the range, is 256 inches as well. This is again 6.5 meters, 21 feet approximately, and what this would indicate is that the Bouncing Betty has a slight kill advantage or a kill radius advantage over the Claymore. It'll kill for an extra couple of inches, maybe an extra foot over the Claymore. However, the Claymore still one-hits people in hardcore, and it is still very, very lethal. If you're hurt a little bit and you run into these, it's definitely going to kill you. One of the places the Bouncing Betty has a disadvantage is that it activates slowly. Not only does it activate slowly, but it has a visual cue and it's bright red. You'll hear it pop, go up, you'll see it, you have all kinds of opportunity to get out of the way, to dodge, and it's very, very slow. This is why a lot of people assume that the Bouncing Betty does less damage or is less lethal, because they often have time to move out of the way before it blows. The Claymore activates very, very fast. You do have the visual cue of the red lasers, but all you get is a tiny little tick and then it blows up. It blows up much, much faster and is therefore considered more lethal. However, what may be more interesting is to compare the total kill area. The kill area on a Bouncing Betty is circular, so you get the maximum amount of area, the biggest blast possible. However, it only kills at head height. All you have to do is crouch to avoid. A lot of people, myself included, very foolishly thought that I had to go prone to avoid, but all you have to do is crouch and the Bouncing Betties will never ever kill you. The kills are at head height. The Claymore, unfortunately, only has a conical blast. This is a very tiny area denoted by the lasers, and if you're not in that area, it won't kill you on either side. Another neat thing about this is that it's easy to run through the base of the cone. If you run through the thin part of that roughly triangular shape, you can move through before the Claymore blows up and it won't kill you at all. Also, we found this to be kind of funny. If you run directly on top of the Claymore, or even sometimes slightly in front of it, it just doesn't detonate. People really have to be legitimately in front of the Claymore, not behind it, not beside it, not on top of it for it to detonate. At the end of this episode, you want to know which one is better, which one is going to be better, and honestly, I'm going to say that the Betty is better than the Claymore. It does more damage, it has a bigger blast radius, it may be weak in that it does have to be head height to kill, but very rarely do you find enemies that react fast enough to crouch to avoid it. It also has the added utility of being able to be thrown. The Claymore you have to plant. You just pick up and you slam down, and you pick up and you slam down. The Betty you can throw. You can chunk it into windows, you can chunk it around corners, you can bounce it off people, you can do impact with the Bouncing Betty, you can bounce it off their heads. You just don't have the same level of utility with the Claymore, and this really destroys my preconceived notion of the Claymore, because before working on this in-depth episode, I very erroneously assumed that the Claymore would be a high damage, insta-kill kind of thing, everything, but the Betty outclasses it in just about everything except the activation time. The Claymore is still click and boom. The Betty has a slower charge up before the boom, so you may still prefer the Claymores for that reason, but overall I think almost all of you are going to find the Bettys to be a better weapon. Well guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. If you'd like to check out my previous episode, it was about dual wielding pistols getting a damage buff. Yes, dual wield pistols actually do more damage when they're akimboed. It's kind of crazy to think of it that way. And if you'd like to check out the next episode, which is going to be on the auto center feature, I'm doing even more accuracy myth busting. I just can't seem to escape this. You can click that box on the right and it'll go live whenever it is. That'll probably be live after PAX. And as always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.